This video we're taking a look at Texas versus Clemson, round one of the college football playoffs in 2024. Going to be an awesome atmosphere, Austin, Texas. Probably not going to be snow like they're going to have in Notre Dame or possibly at Penn State or any of those games, but Austin, Texas is going to be on fire right there, ready for a big game. Texas-Clemson. And right now, Texas is 11.5-point favorite. We're going to jump right in. Some of the reasons why Texas could win, and of course, Clemson could definitely make a game of it. Two really good football teams in the first round. First thing we're going to look at is just the head coaches. Obviously, you got Dabo, you got Steve Sarkisian. Dabo's got a couple national championships. Sark, he made the playoffs last year, and he's been building at Texas, and they've been really one of the better programs over the past couple of years, as consistent over the last couple of years as anybody. But right there, Dabo's got two national championships. But the thing that I look at right here is who is actually going to give you a schematic or any kind of advantage right here. And for Dabo, he's just a figurehead that maybe motivates Sark. I think he's motivating, but then he's also a mastermind offensively. He's going to find a way to create a couple big plays, whether it's through the screen game, play action pass. So I'd say that the advantage for a head coach, and this one I think Sark's going to bring a little bit more to the table than Dabo will. So I think the advantage right there as far as even a head coach is with Steve Sarkisian in this one. And of course, the head coaches are just as good as their coaching staff, and Garrett Riley on the offensive side for Clemson, Wes Goodwin on the defensive side for Clemson. And Garrett Riley has really quietly made Clemson's offense into one of the better ones in the country. Really brought it from being one of the worst to one that's pretty consistently a pretty good offense, and actually number 13 overall offense in the country, averaging 446 yards, and even number 17 in the country, averaging just a little bit more than Texas' offense with 34.3. Texas only averaging 33.6 per game, but pretty remarkable job that Garrett Riley has done at Clemson. Top 20 offense, scoring, and total yards, so really good job there. Wes Goodwin, obviously it's going to be a little bit of a drop-off after Venables leaves, but their defense has slowly regressed over the past 2-3 years, and where they've gotten to pretty average defense. They're giving up 363.1 per game. That's number 56 in the country. They're giving up 23 points per game. Now that's number 39 in the country, so not where Clemson has been defensively. They've been typically in top 10 defense, especially when Venables was there, and of course they're making their run to a couple national championships there as well. So really good coaching staff for Clemson with their both coordinators. And then when you talk about Texas, you got Kyle Flood, which obviously we know Kyle Flood, offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, but also Steve Sarkisian's over there as well. And then Pete Kwiatkowski. I think he's a guy that's probably one of the most underrated coaches in the country. He's done a great job with the Texas defense, obviously building it from the inside out with great defensive linemen. Now this year, they're great in the secondary as well, and they're the number one defense as far as stopping the pass, so they've done a really good job right there. Last year, that was thought of as their weak point. Of course, when they went to the playoffs, they were playing Washington, one of the best passing teams in the modern era. Of course, Kellen DeBoer and Michael Penix and all those guys over there. And their weak point last year was their pass defense. That's the exact opposite this year. The pass defense, number one in the country, doing an amazing job with those guys. So I think Garrett Riley's on the same level as a Kwiatkowski or Kyle Flood, but I think Wes Goodwin is just a little bit below the level of those guys on the other side. So again, coaching edge as far as coordinators, I'm going to go with Texas as well. Next thing to talk about is the talent composite of both these teams. Now, both teams are going to be really good on both sides of the football, really talented football teams. Clemson's talent composite is number 5, and Texas' talent composite is number 4. Of course, they do it very different ways. Texas, obviously high school recruiting, but then they'll supplement quite a bit in the portal, especially this year with a bunch of receivers. Clemson, they're going to recruit high school guys, and they're just going to stick with those guys. And that's what they have, guys that have been in the program for a while. But talent is not much different. Number 5 for Clemson as far as talent composite, number 4 for Texas. So pretty tight right there. Going to have a lot of good football players on the football field in the first round of the playoffs. So Texas has just a slight advantage as far as talent composite. Next thing I want to look at are the quarterbacks. Now, Quinn Ewers, third year starting, seen a lot of defenses, good football player. This year, 2,665 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, minus 62 rushing. Katie Klubnik, of course, these two guys are just Texas products. One from Southlake, Carroll, one from Austin Westlake. Of course, really good football programs there. One around Austin, and of course, one around the Dallas area. But Klubnik this year, and again, Garrett Riley's done a great job. You think about this offense, and they're throwing the ball around. They've got a lot of young receivers, 2 freshmen that are in the top 3 as far as receivers. And then you got a sophomore that's leading them in receiving. And Klubnik's had 3,303 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This is his second year as a full-time starter. But the thing that sets Klubnik apart is 453 yards rushing. So, of course, we know Ewers was out for a couple weeks, and Manning was able to play. So, it could be one of those things where Manning plays a little bit as well, especially trying to get his legs involved. But if it's just a head-up between Ewers and Klubnik, if I was picking a guy, I think I'd pick Klubnik. He's throwing the ball really well, but then also he's a little bit more dynamic with his feet, 453 yards rushing to minus 62. And, of course, Ewers, whenever we saw Georgia, a really good defense. Obviously, I think Georgia's probably the best defense in the country as far as athletes. Clemson could do a few things that Georgia does as far as getting after the quarterback, especially that D-line. But if there is a way to stay in the game, I think it's with Klubnik's feet and him running around, finding a way to make plays. So on this one, I'm going to have to give the advantage as far as quarterback play to the Clemson Tigers. Another way that Clemson could have a really good chance to stay in this game is through turnovers. And Clemson is actually the number 7 team in the country as far as how many times they've turned it over. So they've done a great job protecting the football. Only give up 0.7 giveaways a game, so that's great. So number 7 in the country there. They're averaging to be a positive 1.3 per game, and they're actually number 1 in the country as far as interceptions thrown compared to the percentage of passes that they've thrown. So rarely are they going to put the ball in harm's way, and that's a testament to Klubnik and, of course, Garrett Riley as well. So really good job as far as turnovers. And, of course, you talk about Texas, and in the games where they've struggled or they've even got beat, of course, against Georgia twice, they've turned the ball over, and they're only plus 0.5 compared to Clemson, who's averages being positive 1.3. So that's a big advantage there for Clemson as far as what's happened throughout the year. Of course, this is a one-game sample. Anything can happen. Clemson going into DKR is going to have to find a way to get turnovers. If they're plus 3 in this and Klubnik's running around and he's making plays with his feet, this could be one of those where everybody looks back and says, man, we should have seen this coming. Texas has been turning the ball over. That's how this upset could happen. And it's one of those things, Texas has turned the ball over. They haven't done a great job as far as protecting. Of course, Ewers has 9 interceptions on the year, so that could definitely be an issue, especially if they're having to force the ball down the field a little bit more than they have in some of the games they're able to control. Next thing we're going to look at is just kind of comparing the offenses. Both offenses are very similar. I mean, they're both averaging right around 446 yards per game. Clemson's actually at exactly 446 yards, and Texas at 445.3. So a difference in 0.7 yards per game, which is pretty unbelievable. So both of them have very similar offenses. Both of them average .456 and .459 comparatively. So just 0.003 difference as far as points per play. So very similar offensively as far as explosiveness, total yards, and scoring. Scoring as well. 34.3 for Clemson, 33.6 for Texas. Both of them as far as offenses are almost identical, which is pretty unbelievable because everybody's talking about how Garrett Riley was struggling offensively. Klubnik wasn't any good. And Sark's the next coming of Bill Walsh, and now they're exactly the same as far as their statistics offensively would be concerned. Now, where Texas does get a huge advantage is on the defensive side. Now, we talked about Wes Goodwin as the coordinator for Clemson, and everything's fallen off just a little bit comparatively to what it was. Obviously, they had been a top 10 defense for so long. That's what everybody kind of assumes is happening there at Clemson. But scoring D, big advantage here for Texas, 23 points per game for Clemson. Clemson's giving up 23 points a game, which that's number 39 in the country. Texas is only giving up 12.5, and that's number 2 in the country. And where Texas is unbelievable is the passing defense. Texas is number 1 in the country in yards per pass. They only give up 5.1 yards per pass, and they only give up 143.1 yards per game total passing. I mean, that's a total game. That's less than 150 yards passing is the average. And Clemson's giving up 224, which isn't just the worst, but it's right in the middle of the pack at number 69, giving up 6.2 per. That's number 21 in the country. So when you're talking about just big advantages that Texas has, when you look at all the statistics, look at all the different things that go into winning football games, their defense is head and shoulders above what Clemson has out there on the football field. Both offenses are very similar, numbers-wise. Klubnik's a little bit different as far as a player because he can move around and he's going to create some stuff with his legs. And to me, the only way that Clemson can stay in this ball game is if they're +2, maybe +3 in turnovers, and Klubnik goes absolutely off. But that defense from Texas, I think, is going to control this football game. And playing in Austin, Texas, I think that's a little bit of an advantage. I don't think it's going to be one of those where it's just going to make the entire difference. But Austin, Texas, in December, playoff game, everybody's going to be fired up. It is going to keep those guys rolling just a little bit. I think this is a game where Texas isn't going to light the scoreboard up. I think maybe they score 30. I think it's like a 30-14 game, 30-10, something like that. I think it's a game where as long as Texas doesn't turn the football over, and I think that's going to be Sark's game plan, you're going to see those guys run the football, throw screens, throw underneath, be pretty protective of the football because they know that's the only way that they think their defense is going to get scored on by Clemson. Of course, Klubnik with his feet could be a difference. I know I've said that 1,000 times, but he does have the ability to go off in this game and make it a tight game. But to me, I think this is going to be one where Texas controls the game. Maybe it's only a 10, 14-point game, but it's going to be one of those games where you never felt like this was in doubt at any point because you knew that Clemson's offense wasn't going to make plays, especially whenever you're leaning on a sophomore and a couple of freshman receivers, and they're going to have to go up against the number 1 pass defense in the country. That's a tall task on the road, first round of playoffs. So I'm going to pick Texas to win. And with the line being 11.5, I don't know if they're going to cover or not, but I think it's going to be one of those games where the outcome of this game really wasn't in doubt for most of it, especially in the second half. But anyway, let us know where we missed, some things that we didn't cover that you think is going to be pivotal in this football game. Watch this video right here. It's what YouTube thinks you'll like. I'll see you guys again next video.